Good morning, my family, Galilee family, and friends. This is Paula coming to you on a Friday, um, and I hope you're all enjoying this beautiful spring weather. So, I'm going to do a little something different today. Other than it's going to be different than a regular Friday focus. I want to concentrate on the celebration that's coming up on Sunday, which is Mother's Day. And so I got to wondering like about the mothers in the Bible. And so when I looked it up, they gave a list of 10. Um, the first one was Sarah. I mean, I think everyone knows Sarah, married to Abraham, couldn't have a child, um, and she really wanted to have a son for Abraham. God promised her, but I think we know Sarah didn't have the faith that Abraham did. So um, we go on into number two, mother, which was Hagar. Hagar was the maidservant of Sarah. And so, as it went on, and Sarah could not have a child, um, she convinced Abraham to have a child with Hagar. And we all know how that happened. It really didn't go over really well. And then um, Hagar was known as the mother who endured because she did endure a lot. And so, but eventually, Sarah, at a very old age, became a mother. And then the third one was Rebecca, um, the mother. She's known as the mother who believed. This story was a little, I'm not as familiar with Rebecca. So I was going to read a little bit of it. Rebecca, the mother who believed. Rebecca was a woman of great faith, obeying God when Isaac's servant told her of the man who wanted to marry her. This is all in Genesis. Tells us that when Rebecca became pregnant, she could feel the babies jostling within her. When she asked the Lord why this was happening, he answered her, two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. In that time, the older never served the younger, and the firstborn son would have inherited the best of everything. So when Isaac was old in age, he told Esau to hunt and prepare food so that he could receive his blessing. But Rebekah overheard this and told Jacob to bring her food so she could prepare it for Isaac first. Jacob was unsure about deceiving his father, but Rebekah responded in Genesis 27, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me. I think it is safe to say that she remembered and took very seriously what God had spoken to her during her pregnancy. Rebecca risked deception to follow God's promise because she believed what he said was true. But it should be noted that God did not call Rebecca to deception, but God is sovereign despite the good or bad choices we may make. And his plan unfolded as exactly as he told her. Later, her son Jacob would wrestle with God and be given a new name, Israel. So that's something I'm going to read more about. Number 4 is Leah and Rachel. This is another one. Could all be sort of like a soap opera. Jacob he lived with his uncle, who had two daughters. He loved Rachel. So his uncle said, "You'll work 7 years and you can marry Rachel." He worked the 7 years. His uncle tricked him and said, "Here's Leah, the older sister, you'll marry her. And then you can work another 7 years and you can have Rachel." So he married Leah, but he was always in love with Rachel. And she knew that, and she knew that he loved her so much, and so she bore him many children to please him, while Rachel apparently was barren. Um, and then it ended up that both women gave up their maidservants to Jacob, who in turn bore him more children. And then God remembered Rachel, He listened to her and enabled her to conceive. Rachel bore Jacob 2 sons, Joseph and Benjamin, before she died in childbirth with Benjamin. But siblings, we all know siblings like to compete. But can you imagine sharing a husband with your sister, feeling like you always had to outdo the other? God did bless both Leah and Rachel with children, continuing his covenant promises with Abraham. Leah and Rachel's sons would go to form the 12 tribes of Israel. That's just a difficult one for me to understand, but it did always seem like no matter what, Jacob's love was Rachel. So I have to definitely feel a little sorry for Leah. And then there was Jochebed, Jochebed, the mother with a plan. Okay, this was a Levite woman that already had Aaron and Miriam, and then she had, which would become Moses. And that's when they were killing the boys and letting the little girls live. So she kept him hidden for 3 months and then put him in the basket. I mean, we all know that story. And the Pharaoh's daughter found the baby. And Miriam, the daughter, watched all of this and then asked if she would like to have a nurse, would want a Hebrew. That's not right. It was a Hebrew child. Would she want somebody to come and nurse her baby? Of course, yes, exactly. So Miriam went and got her mother, Jochebed, who was the mother of the baby, and she stayed there until he was old enough to, and nursed him and was paid for it until he was old enough to go home to live with her. And then she adopted him as her son and named him Moses. So it's amazing, this mother. She was determined to find a way to save her son, and God blessed her plan. Not only was her son saved from death, she was able to nurse him and raise him until he was old enough to go live with Pharaoh's daughter. Her son Moses went on to free the Hebrew people from Egypt, leading them into the desert toward the promised land, according to God's plan. And then Hannah, she's the mother who kept her promises. She's the one that couldn't have a child, and she wanted one so bad that she prayed and said, excuse me, still have allergies. Lord Almighty, if you only look on your servant's misery, remember me, and not forget your servant, but give me a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used to his head. Excuse me. So she was praying so hard, and she did have a son, and she did just as she promised. And when the boy was old enough, she took him to the house of the Lord and presented him to Eli. That was the boy named Samuel. And Samuel lived a dedicated life to the Lord, and he would go on to lead the people of Israel, anointing Israel's first and second kings, Saul and David. So you can see where God's plan is working in all of these. I am so sorry for all this coughing. I have deleted many videos because of it. Now I'm just decided to go on. So the 9th one is Elizabeth, the mother who believed in miracles. We realized again, she was also very elderly. She was Mary's cousin, and she went on to have John the Baptist. And that was a wonderful story. And it's one of the popular ones that we know. And of course, number 10 is Mary, who had baby Jesus. And she is also known, she's still blessed among many people, and some religions actually put her, I think, higher than God. But I mean, obviously, a wonderful mother. But when you look at it, all these women were amazing and so giving. and went through so much to have a child. But the ones like Mary and Hannah, who in a way was a little similarities there. Wow, just knew what was going to happen once they had their child. Mary did have hers for longer, but still. So I just thought that was interesting, and obviously mothers today, we have to adore that. But even in us, I think you can see in your life and with your children that God's plan has been there. And so what I was thinking of, you're like me, my mother has passed, and I'm just take my papers, but okay. Well, if you still have your mother, just be thankful and give thanks for her presence in your life. If you're like me, my mother passed from this life, but you can still make Mother's Day special by remembering her and keep the memories in your heart. So I was looking like, well, what else did the Bible say about mothers? Well, there was pages, but I'm just going to read a couple because we're running over. We probably ran over. Proverbs 22:6. I've always loved this one. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. I think about that when our children, or as they become older or young adults, sometimes they get away from church, but they come back, and especially when they have a family, because I think it was we did the right thing. And then Psalm 139:13. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. That was always another beautiful one. So anyway, we're going to be celebrating Mother's Day at my house on Sunday, and we've got the porch, and I hope it's going to be warm. So I just wanted to end with it was a prayer. It's not really prayer. It's words that spell out mother, letters that spell out mother, and it says, "Remembering Mother." M reminds me of her marvelous love. O reminds me I have one mother. T reminds me of her tender care. H reminds me of her heart of gold. E reminds me of her endless service. R reminds me to remember her, not only on Mother's Day, but every day throughout the year. So on this Mother's Day, whether your mother is by your side or far away in eternity, thank God for the gift of life and for mothers given you. And not only mothers, we have, even if you didn't, or if you were adopted at your mother, or you could have an aunt or a grandmother, or just that one person special in your life that you considered a mother. So just think of all the different women that's made a difference in your life, and think of them especially, and reach out to them this Sunday on Mother's Day. And with that, I will say goodbye until next time.